The cost of living just continues to rise. Rent itself just continues to rise every year. I mean, you don't get a notice from your landlord saying, oh, we're going to give you a $500 discount for the next year. That's practically unheard of. But what you do get once your lease agreement renews is we're going to raise the rent a little here and there. The cost of living just continues to rise. One of my friends moved from Idaho back to California. She actually moved here with her husband and 2 kids, and they ended up moving back to a city called Yorba Linda in Southern California, Orange County, and they're paying $6,000 in rent. I just could not wrap my head around that. I was text messaging her last night. How are you doing? Are you still in Idaho? I hadn't seen her in a while, so I just asked her, are you still living here? And she responded and she said they moved back. When I asked her why she moved back, she had mentioned the cold winters in Idaho. You know, it's 6 months of cold weather, although this last winter hasn't been so bad. But when she was here, the temperatures did drop. I don't know if it dropped to 0 degrees, but it was low. It was about 10. There were weeks that I remember it was between 10 to 20 degrees. And that's pretty cold, especially if you're coming from Southern California. So going back to the subject of the expenses, especially the roof over your head, these costs are only rising due to inflation. Inflation is a wild thing. Sometimes it's 2%, 3% a year, and then another year it's like 10%. It's just crazy how everything costs more. Now, there are people out there who are making their $2,000 Social Security checks work. They're in subsidized housing and they're only paying a couple $100s per month to live. And so that's amazing that you can stretch your dollar. What I'm seeing around me is that the prices just continue to rise. If you look at the cost of housing from just 5-6 years ago, it's pretty much doubled and then some. So if you're going to go out and buy a house and you're 50, 60 years old, you better be buying it with a bunch of cash down or all cash. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't understand how people can live in homes, take out a 30-year mortgage and, you know, commit to that when they're 50, 60 years old. You know, if you're 60 and you commit to a 30-year mortgage, you'll be 90 when you pay that baby off. The cost of living will continue to rise. I don't know if there's going to be some kind of a bubble or a recession or depression or what. You know, I just don't know. I just don't see these prices going up, up, up forever. It's got to come down at some point. Another topic I wanted to kind of go over and share with you all is bereavement. You know, growing old, you experience death. You experience people close to you who pass away. Last night, my husband got a phone call from his dad saying that his Uncle Gary passed away. He was probably in his early 90s, and we just had dinner with him a few weeks ago. And a few weeks later, he's dead. Life is so short, even though he lived to his early 90s. Now, that's a long life. When we asked him what was the reason for his death, he said he did something to himself. That's how far I'm going to go, because if you're old enough to understand that, you know. So he was in his early 90s. He had some health issues. He felt like his mental state was spiraling down. He felt lonely, and that was the end of it. I don't think that this situation is an isolated, you know, once in a lifetime situation. I think this is happening all around us. As people continue to age, you lose family members to death or sickness, illness. You know, as you age, you have more chronic illnesses. You're at risk of having health issues. So these things can get to your mental state, and you know, it's just so crazy. My mom and dad are in their 60s, and they talk about it all the time whenever I go to visit them. Oh, so and so passed away. Oh, so and so passed away. And they're only in their mid 60s. I just can't imagine living until your 80s or 90s and experiencing death just all around you. We experienced that firsthand too. You know, we would go to my mother-in-law's house every Christmas. We would have a celebration. And our Auntie Susie, who'd been there every single Christmas, ended up getting Parkinson's and dementia. And just like that, she stopped showing up to our Christmases. And, you know, it's so crazy. I just hope that young people will listen to this and take it to heart. I feel like I lived 39 years in a snap of a finger. I don't understand how I went from 5 years old when I was going to kindergarten, riding the school bus, and now all of a sudden I've got 4 kids I popped out and I'm living my life now. You know, it's just a blink of an eye. When I was 5 years old, growing up into high school, it seemed like everybody had their parents. And now that I'm 39 years old, I've experienced many of my friends losing their own parents. It's very sad, but at the same time, it reminds me of the legacy you leave to your children. My friends who have lost their loved ones are grounded and rooted. They're good people, they're good folks, they work hard, and, you know, they learned the brevity of life. And I think that's a good thing to learn, the shortness of life, because once you understand that, your perspective changes. Your day-to-day interactions with people changes because you realize their life is short, my life is short, we're all in this together, you know? I went to Chick-fil-A a few days ago with my 2 little girls. And, you know, we were eating. My 4-year-old was climbing around in the indoor playground. And, you know, I was just eating my chicken sandwich, just looking around. I see other young moms there with their little kids, and something struck me. First thing that struck me was when I went to go pay for my meal. The person at the counter was well over her 50s. And this person was helping me when I was paying for my meal. She knew how to take the order. She knew how to plug it all into the computer thing and give a receipt. She was real nice and kind. She was on top of it. I'm comparing that to some of the younger folks, maybe in their teens or in their 20s, who are working at cash registers and sometimes don't know what they're doing. Sometimes they put in the wrong number or give you the wrong amount of change if you're paying cash. And, you know, it made me happy to see this person at the register. Another thing that struck me was when I was getting ready to clean out our table, because we were finishing up eating, a gentleman, probably, he had to have been in his early 80s. He had a little limp, but he was walking toward us, and he had the Chick-fil-A employee outfit. And he said, "Let me take that for you." And I was in disbelief, like I had just seen an angel come down from heaven or something. As a child growing up in a Korean household, and it was just me and my sister, my mom and my dad, we were always taught to respect our elders. We were always taught to help our elders in any capacity that we can help. So this idea of me being completely capable of throwing away my own trash, I laugh at this because I wonder, are there really people out there who go to In-N-Out or Chick-fil-A, you know, these fast food restaurants, who eat there and just leave their trash on their tables? I don't understand that concept. I just don't get it. I was always taught to clean up after yourself. If the table was clean when you arrived, make it cleaner when you leave. You know, that's the kind of concept I was raised under. So this idea of an elderly person coming up to me and telling me he could clean my table for me was just absolutely absurd. I told him, I said, no. Don't worry about it. I got it. Just tell me where the trash can is, and this table will be cleaner than how I found it. He just smiled and looked at me like I was some kind of foreign alien. Can you comment below if you clean up after yourself after you eat? because if this is a thing that younger generations are doing, just leaving their trash on the tables without cleaning it, I feel so sad. I feel so bad. It's really sad to see that people would just leave their trash for even the workers to clean, you know. I get that people are getting paid to do this type of job, but it just felt so wrong to me. I don't know. Tell me how you feel about that situation. You know, if you're capable of throwing away your own trash, would you do it, or would you leave it for somebody who works there who's getting paid to throw it away for you? Thanks for hearing my rant. I'll see you again next time.